Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the introduction. Before we're going to start, even if the name INDICAL may sound new to some of you, I think those of you working in the veterinary laboratory, they are used to our products already, since the QIAGEN Animal Health business is, as of April of this year, went to a company called INDICAL, and with this, the portfolio of vet-specific sample prep solutions, veterinary PCR products, and vet ELISA products. And with this, I'm moving right away into mastitis, and also here I'm aware that there's not much new I can tell you, and therefore I decided to pick some information from the FAO website, where it's stated that among the several causes of mastitis, only microbial infections are important. Bacteria, fungi, yeast, and possibly viruses can cause other infection, but the main agents are bacteria. And among those, the most common pathogens are Staph aureus, S. agalactiae, the Strep dysgalactiae, Streptococcus uberis, and E. coli. And this is confirmed by this is a study from Germany a couple of years back in a big veterinary mastitis testing laboratory, where you can see the distribution with Strep uberis, Staph aureus, E. coli, Strep dysgalactiae, and coagulase-negative staphylococci being the major findings here, and all the other ones, let's say, smaller, fewer cases. And I think they are, we saw very similar graphs during the last 2 days. I would like to draw your attention to this, what is called unidentified. Since culture method was used, I wouldn't be surprised if quite some of those were actually mycoplasma, and since they are difficult to diagnose with culture. And this brings me to the diagnostics. So the mastitis diagnostics starts often with testing for somatic cell counts, often followed by bacterial culture, because it allows a broad range of detection. It allows a semi-quantitative analysis because of the low costs for agar plates. On the other hand, it's time and labor intensive. It requires trained staff and often veterinary microbiologists to read the plates. And it's not suitable for sodium acid stabilized milk samples. And like I said, some pathogens are difficult to culture, like, for example, mycoplasma. Therefore, more and more commonly used real-time PCR protocols and kits, because the fast and sensitive diagnostics. They allow a quantitative diagnostics based on CT value. Modern technology allows multiplexing, getting several results in one run. And milk and pool milk samples from disease control programs like Brucella, for example, can be used. And once the sample is prepped, detection of other pathogens from milk, like BVDV, is also possible. And I mentioned that the detection of bacteria which are difficult to grow is possible. These causes of mastitis are grouped in these two major groups: the contagious, with mostly Staph aureus, Strep agalactiae, mycoplasma, and here most of all M. bovis. Those are considered infectious, which means it requires strict disease control and antibiotic treatment, and in some cases even culling, while those environmental causes, with this long list here, are rather contamination than infection, and they can be managed by improved hygiene and vaccination, and antibiotics are not always necessary, and I think this is of importance in times when we are obliged to reduce the amount of antibiotics we administer. So with all this in mind, we developed the bactotype Mastitis Test System, which consists of optimized DNA extraction kits. There are actually two systems developed. One is called the DNeasy Mastitis Mini Kit for manual isolation using spin column silica membrane technology. And there is the MagAttract Mastitis Kit, which is developed based on magnetic bead technology for automated isolation from milk and mastitis milk. For detection, there is a portfolio of 5 multiplex PCR kits, with the bactotype mastitis screening kit for the screening for the main pathogens causing contagious and environmental mastitis. There is the, in the first channel, the Strep agalactiae and M. bovis, so those contagious but more rare causes of mastitis are detected. Channel number 2 is Staph aureus, which is contagious but more commonly found. And channel number 3 is Strep uberis and Strep dysgalactiae. For those who are just concerned about the contagious, we recommend the HP3 PCR kit because this allows to identify in channel 1 the Staph aureus, in channel number 2 the Strep agalactiae, and in channel number 3 the M. bovis. For those of you who are concerned about mycoplasma other than M. bovis, we recommend the HP2 Plus kit, since this detects in the channel 1 the mycoplasma species, in channel number 2 the M. bovis, and in channel number 3 the Strep agalactiae. And either one of those can be combined for those who would like to see these environmental mastitis pathogens as well, can be combined with the environmental PCR kit, which detects in channel number 1 E. coli and Klebsiella. In the channel number 2, it detects the Strep uberis, channel number 3, the Strep dysgalactiae, and channel number 4, the Tuberella pyogenes. And also available is our PCR kit for detection of antimicrobial resistance genes. This detects in channel 1 the MAC-A and MAC-C gene, in the channel number 2 the PLAZ gene, and in channel number 3 the Staph aureus. And this is meant to allow you to screen for Staph aureus and MRSA situation in your herd. Regarding these PCR protocols, I don't want to go too much into detail, just to let you know that they are very straightforward, very easy to use, and the PCR protocol is very fast. It's just 1 hour to run this PCR, and the total run time from sample preparation to result is less than 3 hours for 96 samples. So very straightforward, very fast. And I would like to put your special attention to our internal control. We heard about the value of a housekeeping gene before. So all those good PCR protocols should have internal control to monitor the correct DNA extraction and amplification. The way our system is set up, it's based on a housekeeping gene, which serves also as an indicator for elevated somatic cell counts. And how this works is shown here. Basically, the internal control is set up that it should come up between CT32 and 34. And the more somatic cells are in the milk sample, the stronger the signal for the internal control comes up, which means here, for example, if you get a CT value of 28 or lower, this tells you something, and even if the specific target is negative, this is some indicator for potential high somatic cell count, and you should take a closer look at such sample. So some additional diagnostic value. During the development, we compared and we validated versus bacterial culture. And I would like to draw your attention here where we compare to culture and compare to another commercially available PCR system, which I call here PP. And what we did, we tested the detection limit for Strep agalactiae. For both PCR systems, this was comparable with about 122 colony-forming units per milliliter. We saw a difference for the Staph aureus, where we found a higher sensitivity of 180 colony-forming units versus 900 with the previous test system. So equally good for S. agalactiae and more sensitive for Staph aureus. And when we tested this on a larger number of samples, which were confirmed by culture or other PCR systems, we could see comparing our bactotype system versus the other commercial system. We found that the way this is shown here is dots or results which are dotted exactly on this line. They have the same result. Here shown as an example for those dots, in this case, there was a CT21 in our system versus 25.9 in the other PCR system, which means all those dots above this line indicate a higher sensitivity of this new PCR system, and this was pretty much the case for most of the M. bovis and Staph aureus samples. And with this, I would like to show a case study where we were involved in a dairy herd showing the clinical signs of mastitis. The veterinarian, who is actually a friend of mine, he suspected M. bovis as a possible cause. And we agreed to test this herd, testing 60 pools of 10 animals each. This is not entirely new. This is described already, the use of PCR for testing pool milk for mycoplasma. We decided to use the HP2 Plus PCR kit because we wanted to know, is it mycoplasma, is it M. bovis, and possibly also S. agalactiae, and we agreed in case of positive result on parallel identification using culture. Results are shown here for the mycoplasma, here for the M. bovis. So we found a total of 41 out of 60 milk pools tested positive for mycoplasma. And 27 out of the 60 were tested positive for M. bovis. And what we found, there was quite a cluster of weak positive results showing here, but also a significant number of pools which were strong to medium positive and some actually very, very strong positive. So with this procedure, we were able to figure that Mycoplasma bovis was detected as a major cause of outbreak with some possible involvement of some other mycoplasma as well. What we did then, we asked ourselves, are pooled milk samples, which are commonly used for disease monitoring programs, maybe a suitable tool for mastitis surveillance in the herds? And what we did out of our M. bovis positive herd, we picked some samples, one as an example for strong positive sample, one for medium positive, and one for weak positive sample. And we diluted them with negative milks 1 and 10 up to 1 to 50, a pool milk size, which is commonly used in Europe. And what we found was that the strong positive sample was easily detected in a pool of 50, no problem at all. For the medium positive one, this was still detectable, but already, let's say, in a weak positive range. While if you start already with a very weak positive sample, then there's some risk that it dilutes out, and this very weak positive sample was not detectable in the pool of 50 anymore. What we did then, we looked at Staph aureus and S. agalactiae, and we did the same thing, picking a strong positive, a medium, and a weak positive sample, diluting them up to 1 to 50 or creating pools of 1 to 50. Same picture here. If you start with a strong positive sample, easily detected in pool of 1 to 50. If the sample is medium positive, then you see an impact already. It creates, but still detectable in a weak positive range. And in this case, even the weak positive sample was still detectable in the pool of 50, close to the cutoff of the PCR system. And for S. agalactiae, also same thing. We were actually surprised how many strong positive, very strong positive S. agalactiae samples we found, which are easily detectable in pools of 50. Here, the medium positive sample also still detectable, and in this case was even the weak positive sample detectable. I guess what I'm saying is, as long as there's one strong or at least medium strong animal contributing to the pool, this is possible to detect. If it's just one weak positive sample, it can be missed, but this is simply a question of mathematics and true for bulk milk ELISAs, for example, as well. That brings me to the conclusion. So INDICAL's modular bactotype test system includes optimized sample prep kits for manual and automated isolation for bacterial DNA from milk samples. There's a panel of 5 multiplex PCR kits for targeted and cost-effective detection of mastitis-causing bacteria and antimicrobial resistance genes. There is less than 3 hours runtime from DNA extraction to qPCR result. There's an internal PCR control, which is an indicator of somatic cell count in a milk sample, additional diagnostic value. The whole procedure is highly sensitive, fast, and easy to perform, and it's possible to test individual milk samples, and pools of up to 50 milk samples can be tested. And with this, I say thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you.